So let the record state. All right, thanks, Annie. So welcome everyone to admin today on Tuesday, March 23rd. Is there any public comment on items not on today's agenda?
Who the unidentified person is on the phone. Yeah. Hi, I'm sorry. I'm here, Michael Connor.
Hi, Michael. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. Any public comment on items not on today's agenda? Okay, seeing none, we will dive right into our action items for today. Our first one is brought to us by Whitney Meek. We have a request to authorize the chair to sign a PSA between J&J Landscaping in Missoula County.
Yes, good morning. Thank you for this opportunity. We are excited to get this project going. It's been about 1.5 years in progress, and what we're looking to do is improve the area between the health department and PHC building on Alder Street and create a little workspace for employees and also a break area. And with COVID still plaguing us, it's a really great area for people to be able to go out and work, get some sunshine, breathe some fresh air, and hopefully an outdoor meeting space as well. So what J&J Landscaping is proposing to do is add some greenery in that area and then also pour some concrete. So there's a pad so that we can have tables, outdoor seating, and then hopefully some outdoor standing desks as well for people with laptops. So they're we've budgeted $4,328 for this project, and that is coming out of the Wellness Fund.
Thanks, Whitney. Any questions?
No, I'm sorry. Commissioner Slotnick's not here. He'd be very excited about this.
Yes, he would.
So I motion to approve the chair sign the professional service agreements with J&J Landscaping.
I will second that. Any further discussion or public comment? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Whitney.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Can't wait to see it go in. So.
Yes.
All right, Chris, we have a request to approve an extension to a PSA.
Yeah, so commissioners, we contracted a little over 1 year ago with CMS out of Helena. As you'll recall, they came in and did our salary survey for us and then did our compensation philosophy. And we also hired them to do a review of our classification system, which is what's used by human resources to determine what pay grade a job belongs in. We asked them to come in and do that work. Unfortunately, with COVID and a health issue that occurred with one of their consultants, we were not able to complete the work inside the original time frame that this was originally supposed to happen. And so this is a no-cost extension. There's no change in the amount of money that we're paying to CMS. This just extends the date out for 1 year, basically, to give us time to complete that classification piece. The other two pieces have been completed. So.
Okay. Questions?
Nope. I'm motion to approve the extension of the PSA with CMS. Thanks, Chris.
I will second that. Any further discussion or comment? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, Chris. All right, moving right along here. John Hart, a subdivision improvement agreement and guarantee for something that we're familiar with, Stillwater's on the Clark Fork, number 3.
Yeah, good morning, commissioners. Actually, I talked to Annie just right before this meeting, and we have to postpone this particular item. There were some deficiencies in the actual agreement, and we didn't have an original of the letter of credit. So I'll bring this back to you as soon as the developer provides the necessary information. I'm also, though, the presenter on the next agenda item, which the good news is this is a win-win agenda item. So note that the county attorney's office is bringing a win-win. We do that every once in a while. This is one that you may be familiar with. Let me attempt to share my screen, and I'll pull up the aerial of this strip of property. Let's see. Can everybody see the property information aerial that I'm showing?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, so this again is my cursor is going over this 10-foot strip that goes from Sycamore Street in sort of the middle Rattlesnake. It's west of Rattlesnake Creek. And this strip here is owned by the county. It goes across the creek and it connects to property to the east, which is Tom Green Park, which is a Missoula County park. We've owned it since 1977. Frankly, until very recently, we didn't know that we owned it. And the Hamilton Day Ditch Company brought to our attention that we own this strip and that they were interested in returning one of their ditch laterals underneath Sycamore Drive, the city right-of-way of Sycamore Drive, and then down this property so they can return some of their irrigation water back to Rattlesnake Creek, which seems like a great idea for a lot of reasons. However, in discussing this with you commissioners and other people in the county, we determined that it would probably be best if we just sold this property, hopefully to the ditch company, but then that the Missoula County would retain a public non-motorized access easement across the entirety of this property so that the public can still go from the Sycamore Street right-of-way down to Rattlesnake Creek. And, you know, even if you want to walk across the creek on a hot summer day, you can get to Tom Green Park, or vice versa. So that is what the plan was. We advertised this property. Well, first in December, we had it appraised. The square footage is approximately 2,200 square feet. And it was appraised at $4,400. However, I also wanted to find out what, if any, impact the non-motorized public access easement would have on the fair market value. And the appraiser referenced Montana Department of Transportation guideline for the way that the MDT values property when it's encumbered by an easement. And the estimate was that it actually diminished the property value by 95%. Now, I looked at that guidance document, and that's for property that is encumbered by a motorized access easement, and so that it may be a little apples to oranges, but nonetheless, this property is significantly less valuable with the public access easement. So we advertised this in the Missoulian twice in February. We got exactly one bid, and that did come from the Hamilton Day Ditch Company and Michael Connor, who is the individual on the call today by telephone. And he bid $250 for this property, which is a little bit more than $4,400 less 95%. And I'm recommending that the Missoula County sell this property to the ditch company because it's very close to what I think is a fair market value for the property, but it also is going to accomplish those public good of returning water that is otherwise not being returned to Rattlesnake Creek. So it's going to increase the water flow of Rattlesnake Creek. And I understand that Mr. Connor has recently met with fisheries biologists, with FWP, and also with Trout Unlimited. to sort of scope out what this might look like if the county sells this property to the ditch company. FWP thinks it's a very good idea. Trout Unlimited is excited about it. So that's why I say that I think this is a win-win for the public and for Missoula County, and gets fair market value for the public also. So having said all that, I'm happy to answer any questions, but I recommend that the commissioners approve the chair to sign the quitclaim deed for this property to Michael Connor. And let me explain that. The Hamilton Day Ditch Company has been in existence since the 19th century, but they don't appear to have any sort of legal entity standing with the Secretary of State, such that they could own property as they're currently configured. So Michael Connor, who is currently the court-appointed water commissioner, otherwise known as the ditch rider, is the one who's going to hold title for this property. But it's his intention to hold it on behalf of the ditch company, and perhaps if the ditch company ever gets to a point where they are officially incorporated such that they can own real property again, he may transfer the property to the ditch company.
Okay. Thanks, John. Mr. Connor, would you like to add anything?
No, that all sounds good. Can you hear me okay?
Yep. We
Yes.
hear you right.
No, thank you, John, for that. That covers it.
All right. Thanks. Any questions, Juanita?
Yeah, so what happens after Michael O'Connor? Like, I mean, how does going forward, this needs to eventually get to the ditch company, or what's the next step?
John?
Well, the next step, once we transfer this property to Michael Connor, I think the ball's in the ditch company's court and Mr. Connor's court to to sort of do some basic engineering of where the ditch is now, get the necessary permits from the city, and from the conservation district, and perhaps also from FWP, in order to make this happen. But I think that they're prepared to do that. But again, I would let Mr. O'Connor speak to the next steps for the ditch company.
Thanks, John. Yes, I like the idea of discussing this with the Secretary of State and getting the Hamilton Day Ditch officially noted. And I haven't done a thing with regards to that just yet, but I think that's a great idea. I would like to move forward with that idea. And once we do, then the property that's in my name for sure can be transferred into the Hamilton Day Ditch Company.
Great. Okay, thank you for that. My motion that the chair sign the quitclaim deed transferring north 10 feet lot of lot 6 on Tobin's campsites.
Okay, I'll second that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Juanita, I interrupted you. Okay.
No, to
And
Michael
Dave-
O'Connor.
Dave, I was just able to jump on, so I will join you in this.
Oh, excellent.
Did you
Well,
hear
very
my?
good. I'll
Yes.
Excellent.
Okay, I'll second the motion. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, John. We expect that there will be more win-wins coming from the county attorney's office in the future.
We'll do what we can.
Okay, and thank you, Mr. Connor, for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thank you. This will be a great win-win for sure.
Very good. Thanks. All right, next we have approval of amendment number 2 to the employment agreement between Susan Taylor and PHC. Chris, is there anything you'd like to add to this?
Just to let you know, this is actually a reduction in hours, so that's why it's an amendment to the existing employment agreement. She's going from full-time status down to the 0.75. She is one of the dental hygienist who helps to supervise the clinic. And so this is obviously with agreement with partnership to reduce those hours. So it's just a reduction in hours, no other changes to the contract.
Okay.
All right, I'll move that the board approve the amendment to the employment agreement.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, and next we have appointments to make to the Impact Fee Advisory Committee, which is in the process of being formed. Kyla.
Morning, Commissioners. So this board was established at the end of January. We had 8 new applicants for the board. We have 5 positions, 2 3-year terms, 2 2-year terms, and 1 1-year term. If you'd like, I could read the applicant names, or we can just move with the appointments.
So,
Well,
Dave,
Josh, go ahead.
Yeah. Thanks. So it's my understanding that it's a minimum of 5, not a maximum of 5. And,
Yes.
Yeah.
The resolution states a 5, and then the previous board had the obligation and option to have 2 alternates.
So
Previous
I guess,
board.
yeah.
Well, what's the
Chris, maybe you
previous?
can help us on this. I was going from the minimum of 5, and we could do more. So if we chose.
Yeah, so Dave, you'll recall Missoula County and Commissioners, you'll recall Missoula County considered impact fees once before back in time. So there was a previous incarnation of the Impact Fee Advisory Board. That board ceased when the county chose not to pursue impact fees at the time. So when we reconstituted the board, we modeled to begin with off of that original resolution, which had a 5-member board. You are fully within your right to modify that to whatever number, so long as it is not lower than 5. And then we may need to go back and amend the original resolution to just reflect that new number. So Kyla, at my direction, put together all of the paperwork around the 5 appointments, but you're welcome to do that. It does require that we have staggered terms so that the terms don't all end at the same date. And that's why you see the 3, 2, or 3, 2, and then 1 for the original 5. But you can certainly have more than that. And Josh, you had expressed the potential also for there to be an ex officio member as well.
Yes,
so
sir.
So you'll just need to decide what kind of configuration, and then we may have to just update that resolution to reflect the will of the commission now that you've had a chance to actually meet applicants, which you hadn't when we first contemplated this.
Right, right. So my first shot at, Dave, were you about to say something? I'd go for it.
No, I would not want to preempt a first shot at this. So go for it.
So, we had great. I feel like we had 8 fantastic discussions with 8 really smart people who want to serve our community in taking on this difficult and thorny issue. And I would like to have all 8 of them involved. That would be my first crack at this. And that'd be it. Then we can figure out how to stagger terms. I don't see that that's a problem. And I'm not too concerned about whether or not we have alternates, or if indeed we have an odd number or an even number. If these guys come up with a plan and they end up locked 4-4, well, even if they came up with a plan 7-1, it's going to be the 3 of us that make the decision anyway. And that 4-4 will be a meaningful thing, just as a 7-1 would be a meaningful thing. So my first crack at it would be to have all 8 of these people be on our impact fee advisory board. And then we, in some kind of arbitrary way, just figure out how to stagger the terms.
And so could you have 7 and 1 alternate, or what?
I'm saying no I'd go no alternates. Let's just make all these people it, and we have 8. They're gonna get to a quorum for sure. They're all passionate, engaged, willing to take on something difficult. Let's let them have at it, and we will make, the 3 of us will decide what we want to do after we hear from them and the consultant.
And this committee isn't a committee that goes on indefinitely. This committee has a task and provides. Do I understand that correctly? I mean, it provides.
Unless impact fees are adopted, presumably, then it would continue on. Is that correct, Chris?
That is correct. And then they would provide input as you're looking to expend those fees. They would make recommendations to you based on requested projects.
Yeah. And I think, kind of going on in your vein, the heavy lift is first. They got to invent these things, and
Yeah.
it's a lot. It's a lot. So I think we are going to be stronger to have all 8 of these people involved. They all represent different constituencies. If I understand statute correctly, we are supposed to have someone from the development community, and I feel strongly that Chris Anderson represents that well. His company has got a huge piece of involvement in the build area, which is, if nothing, a giant development project.
They're incredible applicants. Like this is really a quality pool.
Yeah, I didn't find any of these to be individuals who would not be a good fit. So it'd be extremely difficult to tease out 3 folks who we'd want to send packing, if you will. So I'd be fine with appointing all 8. And I think also we are wanting to create an ex officio non-voting member position for you, Josh, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And so then the question is, how do we determine, and maybe it's just,
I see Chris has a finger up.
Chris has the finger up.
So I would suggest, since you're talking about adding 3 members, right, from 5 to 8, that you just add 1 term to each of the categories, 1 3-year, 1 2-year, and 1 1-year. So you'd have that, again, that creates the stagger across the terms that we want. One other change we might want to make is to allow the ex officio to count for a quorum, just so we don't get into this weird spot of 4 isn't technically a quorum, even though it's because it's not a majority. Right, so that way the ex officio could count towards that quorum, so we can make sure that we're clean for the records piece of it. And then, of course, it's up to you if you want to assign names or if you want staff to draw from a hat, however you would like us to do it.
I'm going for the draw for the hat from the hat.
Let's do that. Let's draw from the hat. And do we need to draw from the hat today, or can that be after the fact?
I think we could probably pull it off really quickly here if I just quickly scribble out some names on pieces of paper. Well, perhaps you talk about either COVID-19 update or review of board meetings while I do that, and I pop back in just a moment.
Okay. I love it. We are totally winging this here. So let's talk about COVID-19 first while Chris prepares the hat drawing. Anything anyone wants to share about COVID-19 out there? We just learned that there will be some reopening plans forthcoming for library and out at Historical Museum at Fort Missoula. So that's all in keeping with figuring out how to move forward in a post-pandemic world.
I missed out on what were the details, or are there any details beyond that? Or?
Details will be forthcoming. I don't think some of them are ready for prime time yet. So,
got it.
Yes.
And COVID, what's the status on county employees getting vaccinated?
Erica, is there anyone else? Chris, Ann.
Chris was about to start. So
I was just gonna jump on. I didn't realize that but Erica or Ann, if you want to, that would be great while I write names.
Erica, go ahead.
Or John Hart, you've appeared and taken yourself off mute. What do you want to say?
I was just going to say, I got an email this morning from, was it Karen Harrison? Maybe it was Chris Lounsbury. I got the email.
It was me on behalf of Karen.
Saying that the county employees are eligible immediately. And I clicked on the link, and I'm getting vaccinated at the fairgrounds at 5:40 tonight. And so I hope I didn't break any rules. And I also did not anticipate being as excited as I am.
I would jump in that. I am scheduled for 9:20 tomorrow morning, and the relief is extraordinary.
Congrats, Ann.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Very good.
Yeah, it was easy to sign up, and I was really excited about it. And I was talking to Chris when he heard the news that county employees could be part of this new. So I've been waiting because I don't even cheat at solitaire. So I'm so now that I know it's okay, I'm going for it.
And I will say that if you're not cheating at solitaire, you're playing solitaire wrong. Okay, I'm ready to draw names if we're ready. But yes, the great news was that the state clarified their guidance that government employees were eligible under phase 1B+. So we sent that message out. We will still, Erica is still going to work on employee clinics as well for folks, but folks are eligible to sign up in that in those public clinics. So do we want to start with the 3-year terms, 2-year terms, or 1-year terms, Commissioner?
I think you should be vested with this authority, Chris.
Oh, then let's go from the top and start with 3
Okay.
years. So you should have 3-year if I am correct now. So Kyla, the first name that I drew was for James. So that would be for James. I'm gonna mess up his last name.
Sean.
Bashan. Thank you. So I need somebody who can do this, not me. I'm just gonna pick names.
He goes by Tim.
The second one that I pulled was for Rick Hall. And then the third one was for Glenda.
All right.
So those should be our 3-year, folks.
Okay. Going on to 2-year.
Going on to our 2-year, the first name I pulled was for John. So that would be John Newman. The second I pulled was for Rochelle.
What's your last name again?
DeVoe.
DeVoe, yep. And the last one for the 2-year terms I pulled was for Neva Heisman. Thank you. Somebody else needs to do the names today, I'm telling you. All right, which leaves the 2 1-year as Jeffrey and Chris. By my count.
There we go.
Josh will just be indefinite.
And these guys can re-up once or twice or something like that.
Yeah, we do have a term limits resolution, but it's I believe, is it 3 terms, Kyla? Is that right?
I believe it's 3 terms. That'll probably be determined officially once the bylaws are created with the board.
And after that first year, especially for those 1-year folks, generally speaking, then they go to a standard 3-year term. It's just in this first one, so they're not all up in the same year. So it's not that they will always have a 1-year term.
So
Kyla, Kyla, if you're going to send a letter to these folks, if you wouldn't mind including a description of the terms and how the re-upping goes.
Certainly.
Thank you.
So the motion is to appoint these 8 individuals to the Impact Fee Advisory Board with the terms just determined by a pull of a name out of a hat, and also include Josh Slotnick as the ex officio non-voting member to the board. Would someone like to make that motion?
Make that motion.
Okay.
All right, and I'll second that.
Great. Any further discussion or public comment on the motion? All in favor? Aye. Nicely done. Okay.
So
Thanks,
I just
Great.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Chris. Thank you.
Yeah, and Kyla has done an amazing job pulling all of this together. I mean, including rewriting the resolution. And now she'll, as I say, we'll be working on the bylaws. So we would not have gotten this far without her great assistance there. So
Thanks a lot, Kyla.
Yeah.
Kyla.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on, we already covered COVID. How about the legislature?
You bet. So we just have 3 bills to just touch base on this morning. These are all bills that you're aware of, I think, with the exception of 1 new bill. First one, just so you guys are aware, House Bill 464, the repeal local option gas tax, is up on the floor of the House today. Representative Marler is going to call it out and use some of your testimony, Josh, to speak against that bill on the floor. I expect it will pass second reading, and we'll have to take it on again in the Senate. But just so you're aware that that is happening today over the 1 o'clock hour on the House floor. House Bill 176 is also up on the House floor. This is the one that would close late voter registration on the Friday before an election. Of course, this directly contravenes the will of the people, which actually by a referendum enacted same-day voter registration in the state of Montana. So this is another bill that goes directly against something already decided by the voters. So we will be, again, sending opposition comments to this as it's heard on the floor. So.
I believe it's been amended to, it's one day better, to noon the day before. So not the Friday before, but noon the day before. Still not great.
Yeah. Better, but not what it should be, because they really should just stop messing around with things that people have already voted on. And again, it passed overwhelmingly when the citizens of Montana enacted it.
What is up with that, Chris? It's
a great question. So,
57%.
Yeah.
What'd you say, Ann?
57% of voters supported same-day voter registration.
Yeah.
And that was in the state of Montana, correct? Not just Missoula County.
No, that was just.
Does give you pause. Why wouldn't we want to get as many people participating in our democracy as absolutely possible? I just don't see a good reason not to.
I agree.
Unless, of course, you were afraid that if a lot of people voted, you wouldn't be elected.
An excellent hypothesis, Commissioner Slotnick.
Hey, Chris, or Ann, what was this number again? Sorry.
That one is House Bill 176.
Oh, I thought it was Senate. Sorry. Okay.
No, that one's on the House side. And I imagine there will be forceful testimony on the floor today in opposition, including from some of the R's, but whether it will move the needle we'll just have to wait and see.
There is a very long list of sponsors on that bill.
There is unfortunately a very long list of sponsors on that bill. And the last one, just to make you aware of, that we're still doing some research on, is a new bill in the Senate, Senate Bill 385. This seems to be an amalgam of some other bills that were previously amended and or tabled. This one would create a limitation of 10 years on special districts and on voter-approved mill levies, with the exception of library mills, from what I have gathered so far from the bill. And so this would create some serious issues and concerns, particularly around bonding for projects, which are typically 20-year bonds. And so what it would do is basically double the cost of any project, because we would only be bonding for 10 years instead of 20 years. So we would not be able to take advantage of the competitive bond market rates that we're able to get on 20-year bonds. And so this does create a lot of concern for us. Obviously, we do have Senators Mourgeot and Hill on the committee that it will be heard in, and so we'll be sending comments. This is sponsored by Senator Hertz out of the Flathead County.
That is absolutely crazy.
And not only do we lack getting a good competitive price on the bonds, we carry a much bigger debt burden, which limits other things we could do during those 10 years instead of spreading it out over 20 years.
And again, this is putting a straitjacket on folks who are otherwise deciding to tax themselves.
Maybe this comes from a we don't like services point of view.
Well, and I mean, some of the big
they're going to get less.
Yeah, I mean, definitely some of the big challenges around this is not only if you think of, for example, the city of Billings, which has a public safety special district, but for example, Flathead County, which just recently passed a special mill levy to fund their 911 infrastructure. For example, Gallatin County also voted to tax themselves for a similar purpose. And these are all multi-million dollar, in the case of Gallatin County, I believe their radio project was between $15 and $20 million. I mean, these are multi-million dollar projects and infrastructure upgrades that are necessary for public safety that would now be made much more difficult and complicated by this bill. So.
Okay, well, that's all bad news.
Chris, does that one have a shot?
It's coming from a very powerful senator. So, I mean, I would say, yes, it does. Hopefully the same issues and the same groups will be coming out. So that includes our folks in the public safety field who are very effective lobbyists, both on the law enforcement and fire side. So hopefully those folks will be listened to. But we'll have to wait and see. And of course, we're still doing more research on this one as well. But it looks like a bill that would be particularly harmful in those areas. So.
Any good news?
I would love to tell you that there is. They continue to work on how the state is going to divvy up their share of the American Relief Act, or as I'm referring to it, just CARES 2.0, to just make it easier in my own mind. So I only have to deal with one acronym. So they continue to work on that, and we continue to refine our messages, and did a Herculean lift last week, along with a lot of other staff, to get those things put into buckets and categories so that we could communicate that effectively both to Rebecca and to our legislative delegation that was asking about those things. And I really appreciate that lift, since I was remote and could see the stuff that they were working on, but really not participate fully. They did an amazing job, and we reviewed it again this morning. And I think, I'm not sure if Ann sent it off to Rebecca yet, but it's really close if it's not gone.
So, Chris, are they still hanging on to this notion that counties whose COVID restrictions are greater than the governor's should not receive money?
That's in there as messaging from some of the members, but of course there's not really solid bill language yet. So I mean, we'll see what actually makes it. And there are several legislators expressed that during the committees, as the committees were meeting, that was something that they wanted to put in place. Of course, there are lots of arguments against that, and hopefully that will be the message that kind of prevails, is that people recognize that the infrastructure and those projects that we're talking about being funded out of this money, out of the legislature, serve all citizens of Montana, not just the communities in which the projects will occur. So,
how are there just a handful of counties that do have restrictions that are greater than the governor's?
So actually, most of the larger counties technically have restrictions that are more cumbersome than the governor's, because of course he removed the mask mandate, and almost all of the large counties still have a mask mandate in place. Many have loosened the occupancy restrictions.
As we did.
Which includes Missoula County. Lewis and Clark County has done that. Butte Silverbow, St. Louis and Clark, Gallatin County, Yellowstone County have all done those things as well. So, I mean, there are still many cities and counties that have more strict in the fact that they have mask mandates in place. So,
but
hopefully, again, that will help to move the messaging a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Would anyone from the media who might be on the line have any questions? Or anyone else for that matter? On the legislature, COVID, anything we've discussed today?
Thanks, Jordan. Okay.
So
that's
Jordan Hansen chimed in and said, "Nope, I'm good today." So I guess we are good. Anything else that we have not covered that we need to today?
Covered a lot of ground. Thanks, everyone. And we're done in time for a break for our next one.
Yeah, so Dave and Juan, I'm going to be late to our 1 o'clock because I got in on some of this vaccination business.
Oh,
good for you.
Fantastic. I'm going to go check my email. I'm so excited to go do that.
Well, great. Very good. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. Go get vaccinated if you can. See you later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.